Again, good morning, everyone. So we have started the developing a project plan. I have basically explained the theoretical part that you have to understand when developing a project on the Wednesday, right? And after explaining all those things, I have told you I will draw a project network today. So actually, this is the question that I want to explain for you. So when you are when you want to draw a project network, these are the things you are going to get. So you are basically getting what are the activities, the activity column is there. And sometimes you may get the description column, or sometimes you may not get, right? And you will be given the preceding activity. What are the preceding activities? So those who have participated for the Wednesday lecture, they know what is the preceding activity. So can anyone tell me what is the meaning of preceding activity? මොකද්ද පුතේ preceding activity එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ? Yeah, very good. The Kavidu has replied me, sent through the chat, the activity that should be done before start a new activity, right? That is the explanation that we can give for the preceding activity. And also, the name I cannot spell properly. He or she has also mentioned it in a correct way. So before starting some of the activities, you have to complete. Before starting some activity, you have to complete another activity. So those activities are called as preceding activity. So those who have replied, very good. The name is not mentioning. Another student has also replied. So better to put your name before the MF number, right? So therefore, I can call it from your name when you're sending through the chat. I can call your name. So better to put your name first and then the MF number, right? So you know what is the meaning of preceding activity. Preceding activity means the activity that you have to complete before starting another activity. So according to this example, they are given the preceding activity. You can say for the activity A, there is no any preceding activity to be done before starting the activity A. But for other activities, there are some preceding activity, right? So, this is actually the complete question that you can get for developing a project plan or project network, right? So you will get the preceding activities as well as the activity time. So activity time will be given for each of these activities. So based on this information that you are going to get, you can draw your project network. So when you are drawing your project network, you can use two approaches. So what are those two approaches? I have told you there are two approaches that you can use when drawing a project network. So please give me that two approaches. Hello. Activity on node and activity on arrow. Very good. Yeah, so you can basically use activity on node approach and activity on arrow approach. So therefore, you have to learn both these approaches, how to draw your project network based on those two approach. So first of all, I would like to start from the activity on node approach, and I will show how you can draw this project network using the activity on node approach, right? So please take a piece of paper and please do the things that I am doing by yourself also. Okay, ඔයගොල්ලොත් කොලයක් අරගෙන මම මේක අඳිනකොටම ඔයගොල්ලොත් අඳින්න. එතකොට මේ ඔයගොල්ලන්ට explain වෙනවා මේ කොහොමද කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා. So I will take a Word document. Until I taking a Word document, please take a piece of paper. Can you see my Word document?
Yes, madam.
Right. So this is the exam. This is a question that you are getting. Right. So I will show you how to develop a project network based on the activity on node approach. Right. So when you are developing your project network using an activity on node approach, you have to first get the nodes. So nodes are explaining. We are getting the nodes by getting a square, right? So I will take a shape. So you can see the activity A, the description is also given, and the preceding activity and activity time is given. So I have showed you there is a legend that you have to use when you are getting activity on node. So for that you have to have this kind of legend. This is the legend that you have to use when you are making an activity on node approach. So in here, this is the point where you have to draw what do you call, activity on early start, early finish, those things. I cannot put the test now. So in this, this is the legend that you have to use. In here, you have to put the early start time, and in here, you have to put. Shall I take a test box? In here, you have to put the ID number, right? And in here, you have to put your Slack. Slack, I will put it as SM. So early start means ES, and Slack is also there. Likewise, in here you have to put the description that you are having. Description that you have get for each of these things, and in here and for this column you have to put your late start time. So actually I'm showing you the legend that you have to use when drawing this network. So this in here you have to put your duration. What is the duration that they have given for you? And here is the late finish time. So and in here in this column you have to put early finish time. So this is the legend that you have to use when you are preparing this project network. So each of these activity on node should have to have all these things. So each of activity on node should have these things, right? This is the legend that you can use. This is the legend that you have to use throughout this when you are drawing throughout this project network, right? So we have grouped that, therefore I can take it the similar thing as it is. The whole thing didn't come, no? So in the first node, in the first activity, you can see the activity is there and the description is application approval. And there is no any preceding activity. So this is the activity that you can start your project network, drawing the project network. So again, I have to take this. You have to draw the same legend for each and every activity on node. So then after you can put the values. So for the activity A, the ID is A here. So the ID can be put here. ID is A for this activity A. And the duration for the activity A is given it as 5. Therefore, you have to get the duration for this. So the duration should be come to the middle of this cell. And the duration for the activity A is 5. So therefore, the duration you can write down as 5 for this cell, right? And the early start time for the activity A, there is no any preceding activity to be done. Therefore, the early start time for the activity A is 0. Therefore, early start time for the activity A is 0. This should be 0. Early start time should be 0. And so when you are after you get the early start time and after you put in your duration, you can take the early finish time. So the description is also given as the application approval. Therefore, this application approval description can also be put in this column here. So I will not going to put those things, but in examination, you have to enter all these details, right? So I have put the early start time and the duration. So when you are going to calculate the early finish time, you have to take the early start time and add the duration for the early start time. Then after you can get the early finish time. Early finish. So the early finish is how much for this activity? Early finish එක කීයද activity එකකට? how much of early finish is there for the activity A? I am asking from you. So the early finish can be calculated 5. So early finish is 5. Early finish means you have to take the early start time. For that early start time, you have to add your duration and you can take the early finish time. So that is the equation that you have to follow. Early finish is equal to early start plus duration. That is the calculation we can do for this. Right. Right. So the early finish is now okay. And first, when you are drawing the diagram, the better approach is to draw the diagram first. Then after you can calculate early start and early finish and late start and late finish by using the forward and backward calculation. Therefore, I will draw this diagram firstly, and then after I will come and show you how to calculate each of these things. But I will put all these things for the relevance here. This is for the slack, and this is for the start. ඔයගොල්ලන්ට මෙහෙම අන්දම පැහැදිලිද? Is that clear for you? When I am drawing like this way. Or shall I, in the next lecture, shall I draw it in a paper and show it to you? So Excel lecture. That's also good, no? So shall we try on the Excel sheet now? So one student has tell the Excel is easy to use. So I will try on the Excel. So otherwise it will take longer time. So I will take the Excel. Shall we do it quickly? So for the you are asking to draw me like this way. මේ විදිහට මේවා කරන්න කියලාද කිව්වේ? So in here, the line should not be occur. This line. Borders in here, you have to put it as one single thing to put the description. So, try. This is, you know. So this is early start and put the ID. So thank you very much for mentoring me to be here. So thanks very much. So you can put the duration and in here you can put the description. And by adding early start to duration, you can take the early finish time. And this is the slack, the cell that we are going to use for slack, and the late start as well as the late finish. So this is the legend we are going to use. And this legend is I am going to copy for here. And right, for the activity A, now we are going to do. For the activity A, the ID is A. So can you see the example? Is it smaller? The example, can you see that? And the description for that is application approval. And the early start or those things I will calculate later. So you can see the activity B. Activity B is preceded by activity A. The preceding activity for the activity B is A. Right? Therefore, after completing this activity A, you can start your activity B. So the duration for the activity A is 5. Those things can be filled. So the legend details I will delete. So I have put the ID number and the duration. And after finishing this activity A, you can start to do the activity B, right? So the finishing of this activity can be showed you by using an arrow. So the arrow is going like this way, right? So after completing activity A means the end of this arrow. So then after you can start your activity B. So the activity B, now you can start. So after finishing of this activity A, you can start your activity B to do. So activity B, the description is construction plans. Construction plans. And the activity time is 50. Right. So firstly, when you are drawing this network, you have to just put the activity ID and activity time and draw the network in a correct manner. Right. So if you see the activity C, you can see for the activity C is also the activity A is a preceding activity. Therefore, you have to put an arrow from here again. So from activity A, after completing activity A, you can start to do your activity C as well. So for activity C, you are having the description is traffic study. Description is traffic study, and for the activity C, the activity time is how much? 10. Right. So That's all up to this point, up to the activity C. And you can see for the activity D, activity A is the preceding activity again. Therefore, you have to take another arrow from activity A. Activity A to draw your activity D. So for the activity D, service availability check, name and the number is 5. Service availability check. Service availability check and the duration is 5. So up to this point, is that clear? So we have drawn up to the activity D, right? So you can now go for the activity E. So for the activity E, before starting the activity E, you have to finish it off the activity B and C. Can you see this question? Is that smaller? Question එක පේනවද? Question එක පැහැදිලිව පේනවද ඔයගොල්ලන්ට? Right. For the activity E, before starting your activity E, you have to complete both the activity B and C, right? It means you have to do and complete these two activities. Therefore, the two arrows should be gone before starting your activity E. So after completing B activity and C activity, you can start to do your E activity. දැන් ඔයගොල්ලෝ B activity එකයි C activity එකයි දෙකම complete කරාට පස්සේ තමයි අපිට activity E එක start කරන්න පුළුවන්. Right? So therefore you have to draw two arrows coming from, one is coming from the B activity and another one is coming from the C activity. Right? So now you can draw the activity E. For the activity E, there is a activity time of 50 and the description is given as staff report. Right? So after completing activity B and activity C, you can start to do the activity E. Right? So the next one is activity F. The activity F means the commission approval. Before starting the activity F, you have to finish it off B, C and D. All these three activities need to be completed before starting your F activity. That means the arrow should go from where? The arrow should come from B, C, D. All the there should be three arrows coming before starting the F activity. So can you remember I have told you you can cross the arrows. You can cross the arrows if you are using activity on node approach. That is okay to cross the arrows when you are using activity on node approach. But do not cross the node, okay? So after finishing of activity B, C, and D, you can start to do your activity F. Activity F. And what is the name for the activity F? Commission approval, and time is 10. Time is 10. Right, so we have done up to the activity F. So for the activity G, what is the preceding activity? Preceding activity is only F. That means after completing F activity, you can just start to do your G activity. So after completing F activity, you can start to do the G activity. G activity, what is the name? Name is wait for construction and 170 days. Wait for construction, it is the description, and it is consuming 170 days. So there is another activity, the last activity, I think. It is H, occupancy. So before starting the H activity, you have to complete E and G both activities. So E activity is here and the G activity is here. So as I told you, you can cross these arrows when you are using the activity on node approach, right? So it is coming from E and G. So after completing E and G, after completing E and G activities, you can start to do the H activity. So the name is H and the description is occupancy. And the duration is 35. So we have now drawn the project network. Is that clear? How to draw the project network? Is that clear? ඔයගොල්ලොත් මාත් එක්කම මේ අඳිනව නේද මේ ටික? Right. So after drawing, you have to first draw the project network, and when you are drawing your project network, it is better to put the ID, description, and duration. Therefore, it is easier, right? So then after, you can do the forward calculation first, and then nextly we can do the backward calculation. So I think you can remember these things. So in the lecture, I have explained you. So after drawing the network, project network, you can do the computation part. So first you have to do the forward pass calculation. It means you have to start from the left hand side and go on calculation in forward way. So it means you have to calculate your early start time, and early start means Early start means that for the activity A, that is the first activity that we are going to start. Therefore, the early start is 0. For the early start of 0, you have to add the duration. Then you can go for the early finish time. So that is the thing that you have to do. So now we are going to do the forward calculation now, right? So for the activity A, there is no any preceding activity. Therefore, the early start is 0, right? So after putting the early start time, for this early start, you have to add the duration. So the duration is 5 for the activity A. So after adding this 5 for the early start time, you can get the early finish time. So early finish time is now for the activity A is 5. Right. So is that clear? Early finish time means you have to take the early start time and plus the duration. So this is the equation that you have to use throughout this calculation of forward calculation when calculating early finish time. I think it is clear. So now you can see after coming to the early finish time, after finishing off this activity A, you can start to do the activity B, B, C, and D. So the early finish time is becoming the early start time for all the 3 activities. So for the activity A, early finish time is 5, and that early finish time of 5 become the early start time for B, C, and D. එක තේරුණාද? The early finish time of activity A become the early start time for B, C, and D. Right. So now we have put the early start time for the B, C, and D. Therefore, you can calculate the early finish time for both these activities as well. So for the activity B, what is the early finish time? Can you tell me what is the early finish time for the activity B? Very good. So early finish time for the activity B is 20. Likewise, you can calculate the early finish time for activity C as well. So 5 plus 10, it is 15 early finish time. And for the D activity, 5 plus 5, it is 10. I think you have now got the way that you have to do this thing, right? So first you have to see how many of arrows are coming for each node. So for the B activity, there is only a one node, one arrow is coming. Therefore, you can directly take the early finish time of the previous activity as the early start time of this activity. මේකදී ඔයගොල්ලෝ බලන්න ඕනේ මේ කියන්නේ arrows කොච්චරක් එනවද කියන එක node එකට. හරිද? එතකොට මේ node එකට activity B node එකට එක arrow එකයි එන්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ අපිට early finish එක අපිට early start එක විදියට B activity එකේ ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒකම apply වෙනවා C and D වලට. Right. So now we have completed early start and early finish for A, B, C, and D. So the next activity we are having is E activity. So for E activity, you can see how many arrows are coming for the E activities. E activity. How many arrows are coming for the E activity? 2 arrows are coming, right? So this is the one arrow and this is the another arrow. So 2 arrows are coming. So when there are 2 or more arrows are coming for one node, what is the early start? What is the early start time that you are going to choose? When there are two or more arrows are coming for a one node, what is the early start time? Based on the early finish time, you have to take the early start time. So what is the early start time that you have to take? The one is telling that it should be 20. Very good. So the answer is 20. So as we are doing the forward pass calculation, and as we want to know about the early start time, in the early start time calculation, you can see there are two early finish time is there, 20 and 50. 20 and 50. So based on this early finish time, you have to take the highest value. දැන් මේ arrows එකකට වඩා එනවා කියන්නේ arrows දෙකක් හරි ඊට වැඩි වෙනවා හරි කියන එකනේ. එතකොට ඒ arrows දෙකක් වැඩිපුර එනකොට අපිට early finish times කිහිපයක් තියෙනවා. හරිද? එතකොට early finish time කිහිපයක් තියෙනකොට ඔයගොල්ලෝ බලන්න ඕනේ මොකක්ද මම තෝරගන්න early start time එක. හරිද? early start time එක විදිහට අපි අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම choose කරන්න ඕනේ highest value. So between the B and C activity, we are having early finish time of 20 and 15. So based on that values, you have to choose the highest value. So what is the highest value between 20 and 15? It is 20. Therefore, the early start for the E activity is 20. Is that clear? No, the one is telling that you have to take the lowest early start time. So although we are telling it as early start time, when we are doing the forward pass calculation, you have to take the highest value. Then අපි මේ forward pass calculation එක කරද්දී අපිට early finish time කිහිපයක් තියෙනවා නම් ඒ early finish times වලින් highest value එක තමයි choose කරන්න ඕනේ. හරිද? So although we are telling it as you have to take the early time, although the wording is telling as early start, you have to take the highest value. Is that clear? The name lowest is the person who is telling that lowest. Right, I think it is clear. Right. So for the E activity, you are having an early start of 20 now, and you can take the duration of 15 plus. Therefore, the early finish for the E activity is 35. I am sure you are not bothering about now calculating early finish time, right? So now we can go for the F activity. So for the F activity, you can see how many arrows are coming for the F activity. Three arrows are coming. So based on that 3 arrows, you have to determine what is the early start time that I am going to choose. What is the early start time that you're going to choose for the F activity? Very good. You have to get the highest value. So based on the early finish time, we are having 3 early finish time, 20, 15 and 10. So you have to choose the highest value now, right? So the highest value is among these 3, 20, 50 and 10, the highest value is 20, right? So for that 20, you have to plus the duration of F activity. It is 10. Therefore, the F activity late early finish is 30. Right now, we are done with the F activity. So now we can go for the G activity. For G activity, what is the early start time? What is the early start time for the G activity? Very good. For the G activity, you can see there is only a one arrow coming, right? Therefore, you can take the early finish time which is having in the previous node. So the early finish time which is having in the previous node is 30. Therefore, that value you can directly take as the early start time of G. And you have to now get the early finish time for the G activity. 30 plus 170, it means 200. 200 early finish time. So we have now completed calculating up to the G activity. So the last activity is H. So for the H activity, you can see there are two arrows are coming. So when the two arrows are coming, you have to choose the highest value. As we are doing the forward calculation, you have to choose the highest value. There is a value of 200 here, and the next arrow which is coming is having a 35. So based on that two values, what is the value you are going to put as early start time for each activity? Very good. It is 200, right? I am really happy you are just putting the answers, means you are listening to me. So I am happy about that, okay? So for the 200 is the early start time for the H activity. And now you have to calculate the early finish time. So for that, you can take this 200 plus 35. The early finish time is 235. So now you are completed the forward pass calculation, right? So now we are in the last activity. Therefore, we have completed the forward pass calculation, right? Is it clear for you? How to calculate the forward pass calculation? Chat එකෙන්ම දාන්න නැතුව පොඩක් කතා කරන්නකෝ. Right. So that is the procedure that you have to use when you are doing the forward pass calculation, right? So now I will explain you how to do the backward pass calculation. So you have now taken the early finish time as 235. That early finish time, when you are coming to the last activity, the early finish time that you are getting for the last activity is coming. You can put the early finish time of the last activity as the late finish time, right? So the late finish time legend, you can see the legend for the late finish time is here. This is the cell that you have to put. So in the last activity, whichever the early finish time that you get, you can directly put here as the late finish time. ඔයගොල්ලෝ දැන් අපි ගන්නවනේ late finish time එකක් last activity එකට අපි calculate කරාම එනවා value එකක්. ඒ value එකම late finish time එක විදියට දාන්න පුළුවන්. Right? And now we are going to do the backward calculation, right? So you know now the late finish time, it is 235. And from the late finish time, you have to deduct the duration, right? The duration of the particular activity, you have to deduct that. So from 235, deduct the 35. It means now you can calculate the late start time. What is the late start time? Hmm. 200. So from 200, 235, you have to deduct the duration. Therefore, the late start time is 200. Right? So, so we are going from backward now, right? So for the H activity, for the G activity, now we are moving, right? For the G activity, there is only a one arrow. There is only a one arrow, right? Therefore, this late start time of H activity can be taken it as it is for the G activity of the late finish time, like we have did in the forward pass calculation. If there is only one arrow is coming, whichever the thing is there as the late start time, you can take it as the late finish time for the next activity, like we did in the forward pass calculation, right? So now you know for the G activity what is the late finish time. It is 200. So from 200 you have to deduct your duration of 170. It means the late start time is 30. Right? So I will move to the next activity. The next activity is F. For the F activity, you can see there is only a one arrow is coming. One arrow is going from the F activity. It means there is only one arrow is again coming. Therefore, the late finish time that we have put for the G activity is coming as the late finish. Late start time that we have put for the G activity is coming as the late finish time for the F activity. That is 30. So from 30, you have to deduct your duration of 10. Therefore, the late start time is 20. Is it clear for you? How to calculate the backward pass calculation? Is that clear? If you right. So we will move forward, okay? So we are calculated up to the G activity, and now I'm going for the F activity we have completed, and now you can go for the E activity. For the E activity as well, you can see there is only one arrow. No, for the E activity, there is only one arrow. Am I right? For the E activity, there is only one arrow is coming. Am I right? Right. So as this is one arrow is coming for the E activity, you can take the late start time of the activity H. The late start time of the activity H is 200, and this 200 is coming as the late finish time of E. So it is 200. As there is only a one arrow is coming from the G activity, the late start time of G activity need to become as the E activity's late finish time. It is 200. So from that 200, you have to deduct the duration of 15. Therefore, the late start time is 185. So we now come up to the E activity. Therefore, you can go for the D activity. For the D activity also, how many arrows are coming for the D activity? Based on the arrows that is coming and going, you have to determine those things, right? There is only one arrow is coming. So the late finish time of F activity become the late start time of the D activity. Therefore, it is 20. So from that 20, you can deduct 5. Therefore, the late start time is 50. right? And I will go for the C activity now. So for the C activity, how many arrows are coming for the C activity? And tell me what is the value that you are going to choose as the late finish time of C activity. There are 2 arrows are coming, right? That is okay, right? 2 arrows are coming. The 1 arrow is coming from the F activity and another arrow is coming from the E activity. Therefore, there are 2 late start time, right? As we are having 2 late start time and as we are doing a backward pass calculation, you have to choose the lowest value as the late finish time, right? So in the forward pass calculation, we have to take, if there are 2 or more arrows are coming, you have to take the highest value. But in a backward pass calculation, if 2 or more arrows are coming, means you have to take the lowest value. So for the C activity, there are 2 arrows are coming from F and E activity. The values are 185 and 20. So based on those 2 values, what is the value which is having a lowest? It is 20. Therefore, you have to take 20 here. Is that clear? Most of the students have answered that the answer is 20. So those who have answered are very good. And for the others, is that clear? How to take the late finish time when there are 2 arrows or more than 2 arrows are coming for the norm. Right. I hope it is clear. So after getting the late finish time as 20, you have to calculate now late start time for the activity C. So from this 20, you can deduct the duration of 10 and you can get the late start time as 10 for the activity C, right? And I am going to move for the activity B now. So for the activity B, you can see there are 2 arrows are coming. One is coming from the E activity and another one is coming from the F activity. So for the E activity, the value is, so tell me what is the late finish time that you are going to put for the activity B? What is the late finish time that you are going to put for the activity B? Oh, very good. So for the activity B, we have to choose the lowest, the late start time. So the late start times are 185 and 20. Therefore, you have to choose the lowest value. So the lowest value is 20. So that lowest late start time becomes the late finish time for the activity B, right? So for the from this as well, from the late finish time, you have to deduct the duration. It is 15. Therefore, the late start time for the activity B is 5. Right. So we are now coming to the last activity, the activity A. So for the activity A, there are 3 arrows are coming. So based on that 3 arrows, what is the value that you are going to choose for the activity A late finish time? Very good. So based on the activities that you are having, based on the late start time that you are having, 5, 10 and 15. So based on these 3, you have to choose the lowest value. That means you have to get the 5 here. The lowest value is 5. So from 5, you have to deduct the duration of 5. Therefore, the late start time for the activity A is now 0. So this is the way that you have to follow when you are doing the backward pass calculation, right? Now we have done almost in the project network legend, but we did not calculate the slack time, right? Now we are going to calculate the slack time for this project network. So the slack time, where is the place that we are going to put? This is the place for the slack. We are going to fill it up for the slack, right? So early finish means you have to take early start plus duration, and late finish, how to calculate late start. In order to calculate late start, what is the equation that you can use to calculate late start? I couldn't put the equation. That's why I'm going to type here now. Late start, how to calculate? Late finish minus duration. Very good. Late finish minus duration. Right. Right. So I'm really happy that you are answering for me now. So yeah. So these are the two equations that you have to remember. And when you are doing the forward pass calculation, if there are two or more arrows are coming, you have to choose what? Please listen to this statement I am saying and answer for this. Okay. So when you are doing a forward pass calculation, if there are two or more arrows are coming for a one node, what is the value that you are going to choose? Whether it is lowest or highest. Right. Very good. So when you are doing the forward pass calculation, if there are two or more arrows coming for the node, you have to choose the highest value. So please make some note for those things. So otherwise you may forget those things, right? So next, listen for this statement as well. So the next one I am asking, right? So when you are doing the backward pass calculation, if there are two or more arrows are coming for one node, what is the value, which is the highest or lowest value? The completely opposite side of the thing that we have done for the forward calculation, right? I know you are answering me correctly. Very good. You have to choose the lowest value. So those are the rules that you have to remember when you are calculating forward pass or backward pass calculation, right? So I'm sure that you are really understood this thing, and now we will calculate the slack time. How to calculate the slack time? That is the another thing that I want to discuss with you, right? Again, the next one that you have to remember is the late start, late finish time is equal to the early finish time at the last activity. So another thing that you have to remember when completing or drawing the project network, the late finish time is equal to the early finish time at the last activity. These two. Right. So now we are going to calculate the slack. Right. When you are going to calculate the slack, you have to take the late start time. From late start time, deduct the early start time. So in here for the activity A, late start time is also 0. Early start time is also 0. Therefore, the slack is 0. Right. So for the B activity, what is the slack? You have to take the late start and deduct from the early start time. What is the slack for the activity B? Very good. It is 0. From 5 to 5 minus 5, 0. Right. For the C activity, can you quickly tell me for the C activity, what is the slack? 5. So it is easier, no? Right. So for the D activity, you can take the 15. From 15, deduct the early start time of 5. It means the slack for the D activity is 10. Right. So for the E activity from 885, you have to deduct the 20. It means slack is 165. So for the F activity, right. So I'm just putting the answers that you are giving for me, right? Right. Thank you very much. So for the F activity, slack is 0. Right. For the G activity, very good. It is 0. 30 minus 30. And for the H activity, again 0. 200 minus 200. So now you are calculated the slack as well. So now we have actually completed the whole the project network, right? As the last part of this project network, you have to find out what is the critical part. So after drawing the project network, so I am just giving you some tips to follow when you are drawing the project network. You have to draw the project network first, right? When you are drawing the project network, please put the ID number and description as well as the duration and draw the project network, right? Then after you can do the forward pass calculation, right? After doing forward pass calculation as the third step, you can do the backward pass calculation, right? So after doing the backward pass calculation also as the fourth step, you can calculate the slack, right? So after calculating the slack, it means you have completed the project network now. So as the last step, you have to find out what is the critical path for this project network, right? So that is the last part of this drawing the project network. So before selecting a critical path for the project network, you must be identified what are the paths that you can go. Identify the paths that you can have in this project network. Can you see this PPT? Can you see the PPT?
Yes, madam.
So in the terminology, when I'm explaining the terminology, I have told you that there are paths as well as the critical path, right? So Madhushani, what is meant by slack time 0? You are giving answer or asking some question. Slack time 0 you are telling that the critical path can be selected by connecting the 0 slack time. Am I right? Right. Okay. So before going to find out the critical path, you can find out what are the paths. What are the paths that you can identify in the project network, right? So then after identifying several paths, you can calculate the duration that is going for each of these paths, right? So after calculating the duration, you can see there are some duration. There can be one path which is having a longest duration, right? That path we can call it as the critical path. Or you can just connect the slack time, the node which are having the 0 slack connected and get the critical path. So those are the two approaches that you can use when you are determining the critical path. So we will go for the first approach. The first approach is identify all the paths, right? So after identifying all the paths, you have to calculate the duration which is having for each and every path. And based on that calculation, you can choose the highest value, highest longest path, which is happy. So after choosing the longest path, that longest path is the critical path. So that is the first approach that you can use when determining the critical path. So shall we do that? තේරුණාද ඒක මම කියපු එක critical path එක අපි calculate කරනකොට අපිට approaches දෙකක් යොදා ගන්න පුළුවන්. හරිද? පළවෙනි approach එක තමයි අපි මුලින්ම paths ටික identify කරගන්න. ඊට පස්සේ මේ paths ටික identify කරගත්තට පස්සේ හැම path එකකටම ගිහපු duration එක අපි calculate කරනවා. ඊට පස්සේ මේ paths කිහිපෙම duration cal කරාට පස්සේ ඔයාලට දකින්න පුළුවන් වෙනවා highest duration එක මොකක්ද කියලා. හරිද? එතකොට highest duration එක තමයි critical path එක වෙන්නේ. longest duration. ඒක තමයි first approach එක. තව විදියකට ඔයාලට critical path එක calculate කරන්න පුළුවන්. That is the second approach. You can take the zero slack nodes. You can connect all the zero slack nodes. After connecting all the zero slack nodes, you can easily identify the critical path. So those are the two approaches that you can use when determining the critical path. So shall we do the first approach? So please identify the critical path for each of all the critical paths you have to identify. Right? අපි identify කරමුද ඔක්කොම මේ paths ටික? And can you send me a test message chat for the chat? Right. So we will identify the paths now. So better to learn all these things that you can do. So we are going to identify paths now. Right. So I will go for the first path. So first path is A, B, E, A, B. I will type, okay, A, B, E, A, B, E, and A, B. Shall I make it smaller? Therefore, I can see, no. Right, the one person has identified 5 paths, right? Yeah, that's so. There are only 5 paths. I think it is only 4 paths, Buddha. So we will do now. So A, B, E, and H. The first path. A, B, E, and H. Right, that is the first path. So I will go for the second path. Can you see the screen? Is that smaller to see that? If I make it a little bit bigger, I couldn't see the whole path. That's why I make it as zoom. Okay. So the first path is A, B, E, and H, and the second path is I am choosing A, C, A, C. Oh no, we will go and finish it off the B path. A, B, E, and H have done. A, B, A, B, and there is another path, F. A, B, F, A, B, F, G, H. G, H. So that is the second path. A, B, F, G, H. That is the second path. So the next path is A, C, A, C, E. Sorry, A, C, A, C, E, A, C, E, A, C, E, H. A, C, E, H. Am I right? A, C, E, H. Right. So if I am wrong, please make it correct. Okay, please make me correct. A, C, E, H. The next one is A, C, F, A, C, F, G, H. Right. A, C, F, G, H. So the next part is A, C, F, G, H. Right. So the next part is A, D, A, D, F, A, D, F, G, H. Is that all? Is there only 5 parts, no? Yeah. So the person who has already, I cannot see your name. So the person, the student that is answered the 5 parts, it's right. So very good. So after identifying all these parts, now you have to calculate the duration that each path is taking. So can you tell me how much of duration is taken for the first path? A, B, E, and H. A, B, 20, 35, 35 and 35, 70. Right. So thank you for giving me answer. So for the second part, how much of duration they are taking? A, B, F, G, H. I will take your answers, right? 235. So thank you. And for the third part, how long it taking? 65. Is that right? For the third part, right? Thank you. So others also see whether those answers are right. I will take your friends' answers and put it here, right? For the fourth part, what is the duration? 230. The one is telling 230. The 2% tell that, so I take it as right answer. So for the final part, what is the duration? 225. So thank you very much. So now we have identified all the parts, and now we have identified all the durations as well, right? So among these parts, you have to now choose what is the critical part. So I have told you, after identifying all these parts and after identifying all this duration that is going for each of these parts, you can select the critical part. So based on these things, I have told you the theory or the thing that you have to take when selecting the critical part. So based on this thing, what is the critical part? First one or second one or third one or fourth one or fifth one. So you have to take the highest duration, right? Very good. So after identifying all these paths duration, you have to take the highest duration. Therefore, when you are seeing the duration here, you can see the highest duration is having for the path of second path, right? So this is the critical path. Longest path is the critical path. Longest path, we are going to select it as the critical path, right? So you have now identified the critical paths for this example as A, B, F, G, H. So shall we make it another color? A, B. I will put another color, red color, right? Can you see this? I will make it a little bit. So A, B, FGH, A, B, F, this one, F, F, G, H. So after identifying the critical path, you have to clearly show it according to this way. Okay, A, B, F, G, H. That is the critical path. So you can show it using another color. Therefore, we can see clearly. So this is the critical path. A, B, F, G, H. Right. So this is the critical path according to the first approach that we have used. What is the first approach that we have used? We have identified all the critical path first and then calculate all the duration, and based on that duration we will choose the longest duration path as the critical path. Right, so after identifying the critical path, you can make it more colored, those critical paths. So that is the first approach. So by using the second approach itself, you can select the critical path, right? So what is the second approach I have told you when you are going to select the critical path? What is the thing? What is the approach that you can use? Very good. The one is answered. So zero slack. So when you are having if the nodes are having zero slack, you can. Very good. Those who are responding for me. So the nodes that you are having a zero slack can be identified as the critical activity. So for the activity A, you can say there is a zero slack, right? So activity A, there is a zero slack. And for the activity B also, it is having a zero slack. Therefore, you can connect those two activities now by using a different color. So I have already colored in a red color. Okay. So you can just connect this thing. So if you see the C activity and D activity, both are having 5 and 10 slack. Therefore, the C and D activities are not critical activities, right? So if you see the E activity, it is having 165. Therefore, it is also not a critical activity. But if you see the F activity, it is having a zero slack. That means it is also a critical activity. Therefore, from B, you can connect the F activity as well. And if you see the G activity also, it is having a zero slack. So you can just connect that as well. And for the H activity, it is also having zero slack. Therefore, you can connect those things. So that is the second approach that you can use. So just connect the zero slack activity. Therefore, after connecting zero slack activity itself, you can identify the critical path easily. Right. So sometimes there can be more than one critical path. For some incidents, there can be more than. Right. I will upload the Wednesday lecture. Actually, I couldn't upload that. Today, I will upload the Wednesday lecture. Right. If you are not participating for the Wednesday lecture means, didn't you understand what I have explained today? එහෙම ප්‍රශ්නයක් වුණා නේද මේ Wednesday lecture එක මිස් වුණා කියලා මේක understand කරගන්න. Right. So I will upload the Wednesday lecture to the LMS. So the thing that I want to explain you. So in a project network, there can be one or two critical paths, right? So there can be one or two critical paths, and you have to just connect the zero slack as well, right? Right, those are the things that I want to explain for you based on the activity on node approach. And I think that you have understand it very well. So for the next thing, I want to discuss about the activity on node approach. So in this slide, they are explaining how to calculate the activity on node thing. Okay, so I did it for you by using step by step. So, right, the forward pass computation they are explaining here now. Add activity times along each path in the network. Early start time plus duration. You can get the early finish time. Carry the early finish time to the next activity where it becomes it early start time. So you can take the early finish time to the next activity as it is if there is only a one arrow. Okay, if there is two or more arrows are coming, means the next succeeding activity is a merge activity, right? If there are two or more arrows are coming, means it is a merge activity, in which case the largest early finish time of all preceding activity is selected. මේක තේරුණා නේද? early finish time එක අපි කියන්නේ early start ගොඩ කියන්නේ කිහිපයක් තිබුණාම අපි ඒකෙන් largest එක ගන්නවා කියන එක තමයි, which is explaining here. If it is a merge activity, right? So in these slides, they are explaining how to calculate the forward pass calculation. And in the backward pass computation, subtract activity times along each path in the network. It means from the late finish, you have to deduct the duration and you can take the late start time. Carry the late start time to the next activity where it becomes it late finish time, unless the next succeeding activity is a burst activity. If the next succeeding activity is a burst activity, you have to choose one. You have to choose the smallest late finish time, right? Those are clear, no? So in these slides, they are explaining how to do the backward pass calculation. Right. So you can calculate the slack as well. The amount slack means that thing I have to explain for you. Slack means the amount of time an activity can be delayed without delaying connected successors activity. If we are having slack time, means we can delay our activity, right? We can delay our activity for some period of time, right? When I take the example, if you are taking the C activity, you can see there is a slack of 5, right? It means you can delay this activity by 5. If we are assuming that these are given as days, you can delay the activity C by 5 days, as the C activity is having a slack time of 5. Right? We can delay the activity C by 5 days without delaying our project. Without delaying our project duration of 235 days, you can delay the activity C by 5 days. It means you can take up to 15 days. So 10 for the duration of 10, you can add this slack of 5 and you can take 15 days. And if you are taking 15 days, means that will not affect for the total duration of our project. Did you get that? ඒක පැහැදිලිද? ඒක පැහැදිලි නෑ වගේ නේ. හරි. දැන් අපිට slack කියන්නේ slack එකේදී වෙන්නේ slack එක කියන්නේ අපිට මේ activity එක delay කරන්න පුළුවන් කියන එක. හරිද? slack time එකක් නැහැ කියන්නේ අපිට මේ activity එක slack time එකක් නැහැ. slack එක 0 කියන්නේ අපිට මේ activity එක delay කරන්න බෑ. හරිද? හැබැයි slack time එකක් තියෙනවා කියන්නේ අපිට මේ activity එක delay කරන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් අපි activity C එක ගත්තොත්, එයා activity C එකේ slack time එකක් තියෙනවා 5. හරිද? ඒ කියන්නේ මේ activity C එක අපිට delay කරන්න පුළුවන් within 5 more days. අපිට අපි හිතුවොත් මේවා දවස් වලින් කියලා තියෙන්නේ අපිට තව දවස් 5කින් මේ activity C එක delay කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි activity C එක අපිට duration එක දීලා තියෙන්නේ 10 days වලින් finish කරන්න කියලා. ඒ වුණාට අපිට තව 5 days ගන්න පුළුවන් කියන්නේ අපිට මේක 15 days වෙනකම් කරන්න පුළුවන් activity C එක. මේ activity C එක ඔයා slack time එකෙන් වැඩි කරා කියලා. දැන් slack 5ක් තියෙන හින්දා 15 days කරා කියලා. අපේ total duration of the project එක තියෙනවනේ. Total duration of the project is 235. ඒ 235 වලට කිසිදු බලපෑමක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. හරිද? That is the explanation that I can give for the slack. Is that now okay? Right. So the amount of time and activity can be delayed without delaying connected successor activity. So without delaying successor activities, please give me a minute. So sorry for that. So slack means the amount of time and activity can be delayed without delaying connected successor activity. So without delaying any of these activities, we can take some time. That is called as the slack or flow. Okay. Total slack means the amount of time and activity can be delayed without delaying the entire project. Total slack means without delaying entire project, we can use that slack time. Then according to this example, for this C activity, you can delay the activity C by 5 days, but you are not going to delay the total project time. Total project time will stay at 235 days. So we are using the slack time. The critical path is the network path that has the least slack in common. So in a critical path, we are normally take it as the least value. Actually, we are connecting the zero slack time, right? So this is showing the activities which are having zero slack and connecting each other. So illogical loop, the rules that you have to follow. I have talked about the rules that you have to follow when drawing a project network now. So it is explaining what is illogical loop. Right. So these things, the laddering and laddering, I can explain here now. So extend network techniques to come close to reality. Okay, there is a one thing that I want to explain. It's called as laddering. Activities are broken into segments. So the following activity can begin sooner and not delay the work. So for example, I will take when you are laying pipe. Another ජලනල පද්ධතියක් එහෙම හදන එක අපිට ලැඩරින් කරන්නේ කොහොමද කියන එක තමයි explain කරන්නේ. Activities are broken into segments, so the following activity can begin sooner and not delay the work. So we are just putting the activities into segment wise. and we are not going to delay any of these activity, and we are wanting to begin the activity as soon as possible, right? That is called as the laddering. Example of laddering using finish to start relationship. So if we are taking the lane 5, if we are, there are 3 activities that we have to do. Okay, the first one is strange, the second one is lay 5, and the refill. So there are 3 activities that you have to do. There are 3 segments, and these 3 segments, the trench is divided again into 3 parts. 3 parts, segment wise you are dividing. So the trench is 1/3. Again, the another trench is 1/3. Likewise, for each of these things, you are segmenting those activities, right? So without delay, you have firstly complete the 1/3 of trench and go for the next 1/3 of trench. So when you are doing the 1/3 of trench, you are doing the 1/3 of lay pipe as well, right? And you can just go for the another 1/3 of trench. So now we have complete the trench segment, right? So the second part of the lay pipe, the 1/3 of lay pipe, we are coming it as this segment, right? And we are starting the refill segment of 1/3. And we are now complete the trench part. We have already completed the all the 3 1/3 part. And for the lay pipe is also we have complete the 2 part. Over the 3 we have completed 2 part. So you can just have remaining 1/3, and for the refill you have only completed the 1/3 of one segment, and you can go for the another segment and go for the another segment. So this is the example that I can give for a laddering. So in the laddering approach, you are for example, we have taken the laying pipe. So for that laying pipe, we have identified 3 segments: trench, lay pipe, and refill. And each of these 3 segments we are dividing into parts. So as 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. And we are just wanting to complete those things, right? That is called as the laddering. So hope it is clear. So the next one I want to start is activity on arrow approach. So activity on arrow approach I will discuss in the next lecture. But before that, shall I give one example to do it at home and come? So we can do that thing, right? So can you put this example? Write down this example. I will type those things very quickly. So do you have any lectures at the 10? Do you have lectures? Yes, sir. මන්ට අග්ගාලා මේ ගහන්න ඔයගොල්ලෝ මේක type මේ ලියා ගන්න. So the activities are given by me, and the procedures also I will give. Procedures for this there is no any procedures. A, B and C, and B and D and E. You can see the screen, right? Right, these are the procedures. So write down this. And duration. Durations are 6, 9, 8, 4, 6, 6. Durations are 6, 9, 8, 4, 6, 6. So first you have to draw the first task that you have to do is draw the project network. Do the project network using activity on node approach, right? The second question is identify the critical path. Identify the critical path using the two approach. Okay, I have told you there are two approach. So using the two approach, you have to identify the critical path. And after identifying critical path, you have to show that critical path as well. And then complete the table. So the completing the table can be done. So the completing the table means you have to fill what? Early start, early finish, late start, late finish, and slack. Right? So then at the end you have to fill this table as well. So these are the three things that I want to do for you when you are coming for the next lecture. So please, I think it is better to prepare this project network on the Excel sheet, right? So all of you have to prepare your Excel sheet and come for the next Wednesday lecture. So at the lecture, I will ask one or two members to share your screen and tell me how you have draw this activity on node approach. Actually, you have to present to the class, right? මේ පුළුවන් නේද Excel එකේ අඳගෙන එන්න මේ project network එක ඊට පස්සේ ඔයා share කරලා class එකට මෙන්න මේ විදිහට තමයි මේක project network එක අඳින්න කියලා ඔයා explain කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒක කරන්න පුළුවන් නේද? දැන් class එකට එන්න නැතුව ඉඳිත් දන්නේ නැහැ Wednesday එකටනේ. කෙනෙක් විතරයි okay කියලා තියෙන්නේ. So did you all write this? Did you all write this exercise? So please come ready to explain for your friends how to draw this network and how you have calculated all these things, right? Please do it using an Excel, and you can do it using a paper also, but better to do it in Excel so you can share for the class and explain that, right? Right. Okay, that's all I want to. So in the next Wednesday, I will hope to do the activity on node approach I have now completed. I will do the activity on arrow approach. So before going for the activity on arrow approach, I will like to see how you have done this example. So thank you very much for participating for the lectures, and can you give me a feedback about the lecture that I have done through the online, or what are the comments that you are having? So yeah, whether the online lectures are better or physical lectures are better. Right, the one is Kavindu. He is telling that for his it is clear. So just put a small comment on the lectures and you are telling that online is better, no? Right. So thank you very much for giving your opinion and giving your feedback on the lecture that I have done for you. So thanks again, and I will hope to meet you on Wednesday. And please be prepare Excel sheet No, you are not allowed to use color pens. Okay, you can use only the what blue and black pens at the exam. Okay, so do not use color pens in the exam. Right. So thank you very much, and please go for the another lecture. Therefore, I will hope to meet you on Wednesday. Right. Okay. Bye for now.